doing it. You supposed to be happy you sitting there with Kid L. Why you mad?
The Kid L Podcast.
2, 1, rocking and rolling. Mark Hicks is in the building.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Kid L?
Man,
On this glorious couch, man. This is historical, man.
it's becoming historical.
Yeah, it is, man.
It's over time.
We got to bring this down to Motown Museum, man.
You know what's insane? We have a really nice, beautiful front studio with a beautiful blue and black couch. And we're like, we're telling artists, like, why don't you come do the interview in the front of the studio? And they're like, no, we want the brown couch, man.
Yeah,
It's
for
becoming
sure.
like a staple to that degree. We're going far back in time. We're going super far back in time, man. We're talking about D12 era, Proof era,
Right.
the 90s, man. But let's start off with you first. Tell everybody where you're from.
Okay. You know, my Mark Doughboy Hicks. I'm originally from Highland Park. And so I was born in I was born on the east side, but I moved to Highland Park when I was 2. So I was there until I got my own place, moved out of my parents' house. And that's it. I don't live there no more, but Highland Park that's my home. That's my heart.
So yeah, we had Mama Shoe on here before.
Yeah, Mama Shoe Super. Yeah, I went to high school with Super.
Really?
Yeah. I was a couple of grades higher than over him, but yeah.
Was he always rapping?
He was always rapping.
Yeah.
He was Jimmy. At that point, he was Jimmy, and Jimmy was like, he was very talented in high school.
Sick, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So growing up in the Highland Park at first.
Right.
What was your time like in Highland Park?
Well, my time at Highland Park was great, but the thing of it is that I was like everybody during that era watching UMTV raps. I know we going dinosaur period, but watching UMTV raps and all this, I wanted to be a rapper. So when I went to high school, I got with a couple of my buddies that wanted to be DJs and rappers, and I did that for a minute, but then it was like it wasn't gonna work. But at the time, and this led me into my relationship with Proof and how we got together. I went to the studio on the west side, Mo Master Studio. Like people in the 90s, they know it was like hell of a studio, United Sounds back then. It wasn't as like expensive as that, but it was like where everybody went to. So Proof was assistant engineer over there, and that's why me and him like just bonded. We was like cool because me coming from Highland Park High School, and Proof coming from Osborne, we wasn't like high school running buddies, but when we met at the studio and got each other pager numbers and house numbers, we just became cool because we both had a passion for being in the music business. And this was like, I call it the Eminem explosion, because it was a time that everybody was just trying to hustle, do this. We didn't even have like Kid L shows. It was just like everybody was. It was like a secular high school of music, and and a couple of people got out. So when we seen Detroit Most Wanted, Awesome Dre, and we seen Esham, now they took it to a whole nother level. Everybody's like, you know what, I could do that, and that's kind of what built the momentum going, and that's what built like Eminem. And then and I know I'm like not overshooting the questions, but when I met Proof, he was like, man, it's this white boy on the east side, man. He could rap his ass off. And Proof was like, this is how old school it is. Proof like put him on the 3-way, just like kicking it. Now, mind you, this is like the mid 90s. Ain't nobody, I was doing pretty good because I had a pretty good promo company. But everybody, so Proof was like, oh, let's go hang. And so at the time, Proof didn't have a car. So, we would go over to M's house. That was just like we was a fraternity basically.
Wow, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nick, is this microphone good? I think you might be hitting the microphone.
Okay. Okay.
But you can adjust it for you.
Yeah.
It's actually in a good spot.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my.
Yeah, just try not to smack it.
Okay, cool.
That comes through.
Oh, okay. My bad.
For sure.
Like a crunch sound.
Okay.
You're good. When I want to kind of talk about the early days of you meeting Proof. We'll start if we can start there.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first met Proof?
When I first met Proof, I met Proof at Mo Master Studio, and at the time, me and him was both 17, and and we were like we were just nothing but music. You know, that was our bond. It wasn't high school. It wasn't this. Yeah, we ran around chasing girls, but it was like that was our bond. And so Proof, like out of nowhere, asked me, man, I want you to be my manager. Because I would always, and we at 17, and I would always like come up with information. I would read Billboard, all type of stuff. And so I think the reason Proof did that because I was a whack rapper. And he didn't want to say it. And he was like, I want you to be in the game, but I don't, you know, he was like, man, you can't, you know. So I became his manager. And so from the 90s, early 90s, we went through it. And, you know, like all the mixtapes Proof put out. And mind you, it was like Proof was working at the hip hop shop. And that was one of his, you know, Maurice Malone was like family to him. And Maurice and Jerome Mungo, they were like family to Proof that owned the hip hop shop. So, you know, Proof was working there, but, you know, I was always the executive producer because I had a successful promotion company in the 90s. I had like one of the top promo companies. We talk about street marketing, guerrilla marketing. Internet wasn't around. You know, it was just like we would be out there, flyers, cassettes, CDs, posters, going into record stores, radio stations, you know, attacking the mix shows, DJ pools. So, you know, I had that going. And then at the, you know, Proof was always my right hand man. He would always like, I would be like, hey, I'm getting this money from a Def Jam or Arista Records or LaFace. And I would just fund back to, you know, Proof because I was his manager, but I was also, you know, like helping him, you know, with his career, like his mixtapes and all of that. And, you know, like mixtapes was like a Broadway production back in the 90s. It wasn't like, no, you could just make some stuff. So we was really out there grinding.
So prior to you managing Proof, you already had a ton of experience in music? No.
What happened, it was really the magazines out at Uptown Bookstore. I was reading about Billboard, you know, Musician magazine. And then, I wasn't too keen on a prom. I told my mom and dad, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do the prom. Can you guys pay for music school for me?
Yeah, can you turn that mic towards you?
Oh, okay.
You could just turn it, yeah, if you want to turn it. You want to grab the microphone and then to kind of just turn it towards your face.
Oh, okay. Grab the microphone.
Yep, right, perfect.
Okay.
There you go, yep.
Yes.
So continuing from that point?
Yeah, so then it was like, I told my parents I wasn't really interested in the prom. I was so that my parents paid for me to go to a musician school. It was like Musician magazine had a school too, and it was about the music business. So I was always learning. So at that time, man, I was 17 years old and Proof was 17. You know, he only got me by like 3 months. So we were both like, you know, we both had attraction for the music game and everything. And when I would learn, you know, he'd be like, okay, bet. And you know, he was when they say mayor of Detroit, they, you know, that was like his coin they term, but he was really like an organizer. And he was like, he had it at his, you know, he lived at his grandmother's house over on Santa Barbara on the west side. And it was like a unity spot. It was like everybody, it was a hub. You know, you had people like DJ House Shoes, you had Jay Dilla, you know, T3. It was so crazy, man, because I kind of say my life is like a Forrest Gump. Because, you know, I'm going through this, and then I would hang out at Proof House, and you would see the, you know, members of D12, Bizarre would be over there, Jay Dilla would come over there, and this is my all when nobody was getting a check. You know, I was getting a check because I was doing, you know, guerrilla marketing for national companies. So, you know, everybody was in they hustling days, they soup days, and it was just so amazing. So after that, we just kept going. And would come over there. It was like a hub. I think that house should probably get one of them City of Detroit plaques because it was like everybody came over there.
When you talk about Proof and his aura and essence and what he brought to his environment, was he always like that? Like, how was he able to get people attracted and magnetized towards what he was doing?
You know what? I'll say this. People, you know, his close friends know this. But Proof was really intelligent. Well, you know, he like I for a hobby I read books. Proof had double the books I had. You know, Proof was always reading. He was always searching for something. And it was like and so, you know, seeing him, and I consider myself somewhat smart, but he was like over the top. He would memorize, you know, and he would always be seeking knowledge. And so it kind of like he took that knowledge he had and he like shined it on the tribe, like the hip hop tribe. I'm talking about the Detroit, and it wasn't really about black, white, or it was like if you had a passion for hip hop, and we had like 2 or 3 clubs during that time, maybe 4 clubs, you know, that like the St. Andrews, it was some spots. Then it was like a family, you know. I guess this new era, it's a family. I don't know where they hub at, you know, but you know, it was just so much a family back then.
Very cool. So when you're managing Proof for the first few weeks and months, what were the steps that you guys were going through?
Oh, the steps we would go to is we would go to conferences. Like, you know, like you had Impact Conference, How Could I Be Down? I mean, conference, like probably your viewers, they probably wasn't even born. We was going to these conferences, you know, like Impact and like, you know, we would go to Reno, we would go to New York. And the thing that you make a great question is, how do you break a record in the 90s? The only headquarters was in New York and LA. It wasn't like how Detroit is like we like a new Motown nowadays. And, you know, so, you know, we really just went back and forth to New York. And it was crazy because I used to have to go to New York to, you know, circle back with my clients. Cause I had like a lot of clients in New York, Bad Boy and all of that. And so I would take Proof along, and we would be grinding. We would go to the record companies, and I could get in because, you know, they were my clients, so I would like slide them a Proof CD. And then, you know, one of the probably, I would say one of the greatest times in our life was M had just got, I'm not really jumping, but when we knew we had made it, was M had got that, you know, he had run one of those Source rap battles, and Proof went out there, and the next year he won. You know, the Source open, you know, the Source mic and all of that. So, I mean, we were just running buddies. It was like, man, it was times where I remember one time Paul Rosenberg called me up and said, "Hey, can you and Proof get out here? Cause Blaze battle." And Blaze battle was like a big MC battle. We jumped on that flight. We got there. We slept on Paul's couch. So the major reasons we would try to break records is rap battles, but it wasn't like this current rap battles. It was like, you know, it was like a deep club or like an old club, like the Kit Kat Club in New York. And they would have these rap battles. And that's how you kind of, you know, artists would come out and they would like, you know, A&R. So we would do that. And then just like going to conventions with your product. Let's mind you, it wasn't no internet. You know, back then, you know, internet was like the AOL, the phone dials, you know, but nowadays, you know, I mean, not nowadays, but back then it was just like, it was a grind, man. I probably can drive to New York in my sleep. We would be going there, and it wouldn't just be Proof, you know, at the time, because, you know, D12 was all brothers and friends. So sometimes in my car, because I had a Navigator, so sometimes M would be in the car, or Bazaar, or Proof, or Vaughn, you know, the Nine, or Swift. You know, it was like, it was a crazy. We were just out there grinding.
Sure. So when we're talking about your first steps with Proof, and you're sharing his music with the people that your clients,
right,
which are these people part of major record labels and things of that nature, like can you tell us some of the people that you were that were your clients?
Oh, well, okay, it was Tommy Boy, Bad Boy, Interscope. It was, you know, Bad Boy. You know, I worked Biggie. I took Biggie around.
Wow, you worked with Biggie?
Yeah, I did.
Whoa.
It's like, yeah. Jesus. It's crazy, man. And on some of the shout outs in the CD covers, that's why, like, hey, I love your show. I love your podcast, but I could bring receipts. You know, motherfuckers can, like, they could look on my Instagram, and people know, you know, people of an age, like the kids and up 30 and under really don't know, but, you know, my name is really synonymous with the rap in Michigan.
I've heard your name plenty of times from different people, but I just I think, like, I'm so engulfed in the new rap scene that it's like, for me, it's like, oh my God, like, I don't even know who, like, to talk to anymore about this stuff, because you're hearing so many different stories from so many different people. But I've heard your name plenty of times.
Well, you know what, man, Kid L, you one of the guys that you carrying the torch, man. You know, and not to give you, you know, like when we was doing that, we were always hoping, and that's one thing where people loved about Proof. Yeah, we were grinding and doing stuff, but he seen an opportunity for like one of his friends or one of the people he like worked with, like the bazaars. Them, it was always a carry on, and that's how even like D12 became a brotherhood, because you know all of them was like, look, if I get on, we taking everybody with, you know, and it was like it was so.
Proof was individual before D12, obviously, right? Like
all of them was individuals.
Yeah, when you started sharing his music with these big executive labels and these people, did you get responses from them right away, or was it like just a slow process?
Well, one of the biggest achievements we had got, and it's a company, and once again I'm dating myself, but it's like Tommy Boy Records, and Tommy Boy, you know, they had Naughty by Nature, Coolio, Digital Underground. That was one of Tupac's first labels. It was the premier, like it was kind of like Empire is nowadays.
Wow.
And so they were like one of the top rap labels, and I was working. That was one of my clients, and they was like, you know what, we're gonna take a shot, because I was sending. So they gave Proof what they called a demo deal. So they gave us like maybe 10 racks, and they said, look, we're gonna give you this, come up with a record, and we're gonna see what we're gonna do. I don't even know if the modern industry, because I'm still in the industry, but nobody really do demo deals. It's almost like you gotta go to a production house. But you know, a record company, Tommy was like, okay, we're gonna give you this money. And you know, it was just in a holding process. It wasn't shelved, because he didn't officially sign. You know, they flew us out, gave us some money, but it really did nothing foster. And then back then, which was a kind of a glaring point, it was about SoundScan. You know, it wasn't about social media how it is now. It was about SoundScan.
What's SoundScan?
Okay, that's good. SoundScan is when you have a record store, you take it's like when you go to the Target or warehouse and they scan the barcode. Well, in the record stores back in the day, you know, all the records had barcodes, and so you know they would scan. So the major record stores, you know, and it was like a lot of them in Detroit. That's one thing people don't understand. That's why this is a music mecca. We have like 3 times the amount of record stores like in the 90s and 2000. You know, this is Music City. So they would scan it, and then the record companies would say, oh, yeah, this record ain't selling, you know, because they could tell, and everybody got the SoundScan charts. One of the reasons, like, I know for a fact, Rock Bottom and Street Lord Juan and all them, you know, major record companies was seeing how much they were selling because they were SoundScan, and they would be like, wait a minute, this record, Rock Bottom, who is Rock Bottom, is doing just as much numbers as, you know, as a Puffy record.
Wow.
I mean, and so that's where, like, you know, that's when like they started taking a look, like, let's look at Detroit.
Wow.
This was before, you know, this is a Detroit explosion. I mean, these youngins, they killing the game. I'm so loving it, man.
Man. So when Proof, you guys get this kind of demo deal that kind of goes off into nothing, what was the next steps for you guys?
We just kept grinding. It was like, to break it down, it was like 3 or 4 conferences out of state, and we would just keep grinding. And we would like put records out, make vinyl. We would like do everything. It just wasn't, you know, getting played on the radio. And I used my resources because I was the executive producer. I was funding it because I had belief in my boy.
What about Detroit? Was Detroit repping it hard?
Detroit was repping it, but it was, now at that point, Detroit, it was a wall. It was like, you know, you had JLB, the major radio stations, but they wasn't really connected. Because, you know, it would be times where at JLB during this time I'm talking about, only like probably 1 or 2 records from Detroit was playing. So, really? You know, it was definitely.
Do you remember who it was? Like,
it was a group called COI, Cash Rules Everything Around Me.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it was it wasn't a lot, man.
Was Boss like banging in Detroit?
Boss had to go. It was almost like the Nazareth story. Boss had to go out to L.A. and get stuff. Like most of your people, like LaRocco T, Boss, Awesome Dre was on. All these the local labels here. It was only like one or two that really was strong, but they really couldn't compete with the majors because the majors was selling so many records at record stores. So you bringing in one record at a record store, and they looking like Warner Brothers, Sony is gonna take precedent over you.
Wow. So then Proof isn't really finding his lane yet at this point. What year are we talking about?
Well, Proof, like I said, this was like 97, 96.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 90. Yeah, like during the late 90s, man, we was all out grown. And matter of fact, not over jumping, but how Eminem and got signed because he was at, when I'm talking about a music conference, him and Paul Rosenberg, they went out to a music conference in LA. We didn't go to that one, but you would go there and you would network. And so that's the point. Yeah, so
when did Proof introduce you to Eminem?
Yeah, he introduced me on the phone on a three-way call. It was
that's the story you were talking about?
Yeah.
What was the conversation like?
It was just like Proof was just like, hey man, Proof was always networking. Even at 18 years old, he would be three ways. He would be burning up the phone. He would be like, hey, I got to introduce you to this. Or hey, he's gonna put Bizarre on the phone. Or hey, it was like because it was a really small.
What Eminem? Oh, this is 92 when you first meet Eminem.
Yep.
What did you guys first talk about when you were on the phone together?
We would. What's crazy? I don't know why I remember this. One of the conversations, Nate, his little brother, I think he had just like fell and broke his jaw. And he was like, "Oh man, I got a house sit Nate for the whole summer or something." It was something that, that's the kind of conversations we'll be having, like conversations like that. It was just crazy. And then everybody was just into rap. So we would watch like MTV, BET, and just Soul Train, and we would just like everything was about rap. And then we would hang out at record stores, and that was how we built this industry. I'm not saying our hands alone, but we're like some of the founders in the 80s and the 90s where we helped build this music community. So I'm really proud of everything, like the Kid L's, the Cash Dolls. It's amazing, man.
Let's get real. You don't know what the hell you're doing as an artist. You have all the talent, a little clout, but no motion. That's because you don't know what the hell you're doing. I know it's harsh, but it's true. That's why we developed the Artist X strategy. It includes one-on-one sessions with hip-hop and entertainment moguls that will walk you through this hurricane we call the entertainment industry. You can receive coaching, music and social media analysis, and networking opportunities. Message kid.l.video on Instagram to learn more. Guys, stop traveling in the wrong direction. With an in-depth analysis, one turn can literally turn your career around.
So when you're moving forward with Proof, and then, like you said, it's towards 1996, 1997.
Right.
I think this is kind of towards the time where like Biggie and Tupac's end of their lives are unfortunately coming to, which makes the music scene hotter, which makes the rap scene hotter. Did that change the trajectory for anything around that time? And obviously you're acquainted with Biggie enough to feel what was going on.
That was a nightmare. His death just happened. The anniversary happened yesterday.
Yep.
I couldn't, when people started really dying in the, like the modern day, it's like every 3 months a rapper died. But back then, that was earth shattering to our crowd, to our, not to our graduating class. Like we were like, damn. So it, it propelled it, to be honest with you. It wasn't like somebody got, killed, because when Biggie died, Jay-Z jumped out to the forefront. Tupac died, it was other, it was a continuous cycle, because no matter what, rap sales. So it wasn't like, okay, Biggie, Tupac died, we're gonna take a chill pill. It was like, certainly it was just kept going. It was like,
What was your relationship like at that time with Proof? Because if you guys, this is like years you guys are working together, right? Are you guys getting stressed out? Or are you guys like getting
very stressed?
Yeah.
It was a time, and I bring up Eminem on this one. It was a time where everybody was getting frustrated, because everybody would get menial jobs, but they always, it's just amazing. We didn't have it wasn't no like connect. It wasn't like no empire. It wasn't like people were coming in and saying, oh, the Michigan market is crazy. It was just like, everybody's like, yeah, it's cool, but we cool with what we signed. So it was very frustrating. And then Proof had Nassan,
Oh wow.
yeah, he had Nassan, and he, Proof was like, man, he was like, this is getting crazy, because then, people like Eminem he had Haley, Proof had Nassan. It was
They're
like
probably all feeling like they're getting old and they're rapping.
yeah,
and
it's like yeah, and
damn.
the M put out that Marshall Mathers EP, and he was like, if this don't come out, he would tell everybody, this wasn't like something I had a one-on-one with. He would tell everybody, like, look, if this record don't blow up, I'm done with rap.
Yeah.
I mean, he's, and this is like, you could even see in some interviews, he said, and I could swear on that he was like, I'm through with it, because he came out with Infinite, and Infinite, it was ahead of his time.
It was.
Yeah, and then when he said to Marshall Mathers, he was like, well, I'm just gonna flip the script. I'm gonna, like, what do you say, like, dumb it down and just be like, like some rap. It was like, damn, it was like, this is crazy. And then, one of our stars and one of the I would say one of the kind of like the Northern Star was Esham, because Esham it was one set that him and his brother James, they was selling a shitload of records,
Right.
Back in them nights, like
They had the red tape, man, which like blew everybody away.
man, it was, and so people seeing like Esham like driving brand new Benzes and Proof like, hey Mark, can you pick me up? But we knew it was a grind, and everybody was soldiers to it. We was like, okay, we gonna make this happen.
Because Esham was completely independent, right?
Oh, completely.
Yeah, and he was selling records, and then I think when he came on here, he said, unfortunately, like the incident with them at Warped Tour was like,
Yeah,
it hurt his pockets a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately,
were you friends with Esham at that time, or did you just know who he was?
A story about Esham. Once again, Esham is a very talented brother, and James, his brother, is very talented, and we were all cool with each other. It got to a point where when M got signed, and then M was like, I'm taking care of D12. And at a point you could imagine he only, this is M just getting money in his whole life, but he wanted to take care of his boys. Yeah. And Esham was doing his thing, and I just think, man, I remember it was we were out in New York for the MTV Music Awards, and this was the first time this was like when the explosion happened, and we ran into Esham at a hotel. Because he was out there, Esham was getting money, and Esham wanted to talk with M, and they had a talk, but it's just like it fell apart because everybody was cool with each other. It wasn't like we were a small family. Esham was the most successful at the time, and it just fell apart. And then Esham started it was like magazines where he was like, it just he was talking, he was making some comments about M, and it just didn't work out, man.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that Warp, I hated that, because we were all peoples, and it was like, it was just crazy.
Were you there that day?
Yeah, I was there that day.
Damn, it sucks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, when he talked about it here, he pretty much was saying like it was a bunch of people versus just him, and there was no way out for him. Like he just had to take what they brought, unfortunately, which just sucks, because like you're saying, it didn't need to be that way, right?
Now I watched some of that interview, but Esham got a get back though. Did he tell you the get back story?
No.
Well, we were in LA, and it was me, Proof. Esham can validate this. It was me, Proof, Obi Trice, and Obi's brother, who was his manager, Terry Wilson. We at the Coyote Ugly in LA. The Money Strip. We walking, and you know what? We having so much fun. Proof and me, and I was at fault for it, because my partner when I was managing D12, Rico Shelton, he was at the hotel, and we was like, you know what, we just gonna have some drinks. We had did a lot. We was filming a video, and we just was gonna hang out. So we went to Coyote Ugly, which was like half mile from our hotel. We walking back, all of a sudden, Proof get punched in the crowd, and the crowd it's on a major LA street. I can't think of the name of it. Esham comes and punched Proof, and then it's 15 Mexicans, maybe 10. We got rushed. I mean, it was a fight, and it was like, that's the one where it was Nodis, Esham, and it was some Mexican dudes, and I got my jaw rocked. I mean, we all stood up. We was like, but it was a fight. And it was just so crazy.
How come nobody's ever told this story? Like, how come?
Well, that's why I'm here. No, this is factual. God. You could, this is factual. And it was so crazy. And it was like, man, Nodis, Obi like smashed the glass. It was a fight. I mean, but it was only like 4 against. It was a lot of people. But I guess Esham, somebody seen us at Coyote Ugly, and Esham. It was so crazy because we all the way out in LA. And it was like, bam, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Proof hated that Warp thing. All the members of D12 hated that because, we were all friends and fam. So we hated that. And then when he rushed us in LA, it was bad. And, right before Proof died, Esham, like, man, he was a real man. I fuck with Esham. I really like Esham.
Yeah, they said that they squashed the whole thing.
Yeah, they squashed the whole thing. It was it was like a few months before Proof
was
died.
The way that people described the Warped Tour incident like valid, where it was just like they seen Esham and they were upset because he had said stuff about Eminem and then they just attacked him? Or like,
no, it was a pissing match. It was like, it was a pissing match because Esham kind of felt a certain way. And I see kind of, I could, if I go into mine, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I could see Esham was put in the game for like 10 years hard. And then you got like this explosion. And it wasn't just Esham, but Esham is like, man, he's one of him and his brother should have been on the Forbes cover. So I highly respect it. So it was like, man, it was basically like a pissing match that day. It was like, and as me being a manager, and I don't know if Esham ever talked to me, ever knew this, but I kind of felt some vibes because that was only the 4th day of the tour with that Kevin Lyman's tour. So I kind of was like, it just was like, man, it's gonna be this is gonna get crazy because like. Warped is like an open community. It's like that was one of our first festivals, and it's like so you backstage. It's like 20 artists there, and it's like, oh shit. So I called his record label because the people with him, they were like, it wasn't no talking to them. So I called and I was like, look, this is gonna happen. I was like, look, we need to calm stuff down. The guy who called, and this wasn't Esham or his brother. They were like, oh man, they called and like laughed like, ah ha 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 ha, yeah right,
like they didn't think anything was. They didn't think
anything was happening, but see, they were still in Detroit.
No,
and they weren't Esham company. It was Overture Records, I think that was it. And they was like, they were some older gentlemen. But I'm like got my boots on the ground. I'm at the place and I know some shit is gonna happen.
What were you feeling? Like what were you seeing that tipped you off to know something was happening?
About the fight?
Yeah, before the fight happened.
Well, we were in a bus. We were in our tour bus and Esham launched a bottle at our truck.
What?
Yeah. He launched a bottle at our bus, and then this shit just got crazy.
Who was the first person to respond to like what happened?
Man, everybody got out of the it was he, the bottle got launched, and it just and so we was telling because we was making some pretty good money on that tour, And once again, I gotta say something, kid. This is Mark Hicks. I know that D12 got brilliant stories. I know Bizarre been on here. This is just my purview of it. Yeah. So we were telling D12, man, we making a lot of money, and we were only on 4 shows. And when you back then or even now, you get a deposit, you don't want to return that deposit back, especially when you on a tour. So we were like, let's cool it. But Esham, he launched that bottle.
Damn.
And it didn't break a window, but that was a tipping point.
Did Eminem get out too, or did it was just?
No, Eminem wasn't there.
Oh, it was just D12 that
Yep. It was just D12 and our crew.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow, insane. It sucks that you were friends with everybody, and it's like you have to deal with all of it colliding at that moment. That's difficult.
It was, and you know, Proof is he is a very compassionate person.
Yeah.
And so when he would be like, you know, when it's 4 a.m. and we just sitting there talking and we just having drinks and shit, he's like, man, I hate this shit, because Proof is always about Detroit, you know, because the name Proof comes from, he was like, it's proof that there's talent in Detroit. That was one of his things why he was Proof. So for him to like, he wanted to bring the whole city up. So he hated it, all of that shit, man.
When we're talking about, I want to get to before Eminem gets signed, before D12 even comes into existence. What is the start of you realizing D12 is about to form?
Well, no, it was like every member. Well, you had the Nine and Vaughn. They were the brigade. So every other person is a solo artist, because everybody had their dreams about being a man. So it was like they were all hanging together, and they was like, you know what, we just need to form a group. It was like we need to form like a superhero team. You know, let's form them. What's that, Marvel Avengers? Yeah. So that was it. Like, okay, we all talented, but we just want to have a home base.
Yes. And so Proof, I know, he's the starting point of D12.
Yeah, well, nah, it was, yeah. He was an organizer, because, you know, and all of them had alias. So, you know, you had, you know, Proof was Dirty Harry, Eminem was Slim Shady. So, you know, all of them had alias. So that's how it was 12. So, and then, you know, unfortunately, the original group members, some left, because it was like maybe 8 or 9 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember who they were?
It was IQ. It was, I'm gonna get in trouble. It was IQ, and it was probably one more I don't remember. I mean, I don't think of their name. I know them, but Bugz was in it, and
right.
That's when Bugz when M said he was gonna sign D12. It was Bugz, Bizarre, Kuniva, Vaughn, and Proof. And then add M, that was 12. But then it was right 2 weeks, M was coming home, because he was on a tour. He was on his first tour, and he was about to do the theater, State Theater, what do they call it now?
The amphitheater?
Yeah, no, the State Theater. Well, yeah, he was about to do, shit, I can't even think. What's State Theater? What next to Mom Spaghetti?
Oh, you're talking about?
No, not Fox.
The amphitheater? You're talking about, what's the amphitheater called downtown?
Fillmore? Yeah, the Fillmore. Fillmore. It was called State Theater then.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so he was about to do that. This was gonna be his first show at like a major, this was gonna be his homecoming. 2 days before then, Bugz was it was high school skip day. It was some senior day at Belle Isle, and he got into it with some people, and they killed him over a water gun. So that was like, can you imagine? Em was about to do this big show. I remember this like back of my hand. He was about to do a big show on Sunday, and Friday Bugz get killed.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so when he died, you know, that was just, man, that was horrible, because Bugz was a great brother. But then, you know, that's when we brought in Swift. It wasn't to replace him. It was just like, you know, D12 was like, you know, he was in the crew, but, you know, Swift had his own thing going at the time. But,
What do you mean he got killed over a water gun?
Yeah, it was you know how back then, you know, Belle Isle used to be packed. It used to be like a club. And so he was like, it was one of them senior days. And, you know, Bugz was a little bit older, and it was just a water gun. It was it made the national, not national, but it made all the newspapers and TV here. And it was like, somebody had he had squirted a girl, and it was all in fun. It wasn't like he was just doing this. It was just some fun shit. And I believe her cousin came back, and the guy shot, and you know, Belle was so packed in that, you know, and he got caught like probably like 100 yards away or something, or I don't, you know, it was just like it was that raw emotion that happens nowadays too, you know. But
when we're talking, rest in peace to Bugz. That's horrific, man. To go out for like having fun, and it's like,
yeah,
especially right before like his whole life is about to change, you know.
Yeah, right.
Because
It was like, dang, it was like, what the hell, man.
When we're talking about, I don't want to skip anything past the beginning of, because a lot of people who are watching this want to know the history of the beginning of D12. So can you kind of walk us through the timeline of D12's beginning?
Well, it started when really they were always friends. So like I said, we had just like record stores, like, you know, Record Time on Gratiot. You know, everybody would kind of get their new music and go to record stores, and we had like we said, like Proof. His hub was his grandma's house over in Santa Barbara in Detroit, so everybody would hub over there. So it was always about, the key point was, and this even include Eminem, it was like, if whatever person get on first, we're going to help each other.
Yes,
so that's the basis. That's the main thing. They were like the Avengers of current. Like they were always like, really, we gonna help each other.
Yes.
So and they were all talented, and they had different ways that they got studio time, because that was it. So some worked at McDonald's, like, you know, Proof and M. They used to work at Little Caesars. You know, so everybody would grind up their money and do their own thing. So they were all individual, and they just was like, we're gonna do this Dirty Dozen. So they wanted to like have alternate personalities, and so they would pay for their own studio, but then they would come together. You know, like say like if a studio bill was like $200, they would all chip in to do the Dirty Dozen project, because the main thing, they wanted to create an album, but it was really like a vibe, a lifestyle, you know, for Dirty Dozen.
That's sick, man.
Yeah, so it was like that kept building in the 90s. And then they were, and you brought it up earlier, they were getting frustrated. They was, you know, because Bizarre had to move back, you know, move back. I think his mom was living in Dallas. It went times where D12 wasn't like, it was like real life going on, real bills, and like someone started having babies, and it's like, damn, you know.
Yeah.
And then that whole thing was, I knew, and not to jump, but when it finally happened, where it's that day you hit the, you hit the lottery, it was some talk about Paul and M was at this convention out in LA. And I can't remember the name of it. They was at this convention in LA, and, you know, it went to like one of the radio reps who was seeing M rap at the convention. And this is the perfect story why everybody went to a convention. They was like, man, why don't you come freestyle on our radio show? And he went there, and ironically, DJ Mortimer, who was Jimmy Iovine, who's the owner of Interscope, and this guy named Dean Geislinger was listening on the radio, and they was like, damn. And then all started the motion, and Dr. Dre got involved. Everything started.
So is the story not true about like Eminem handing his tape to some intern at Interscope, and then the kid?
It's kind of a mix, because DJ, you know, Jimmy Iovine is DJ's uncle, but it wasn't like handing a tape. It was more like hearing him on the radio, and then they just the whole, you know, then Jimmy got on the phone and was like, you know, I'm just saying, it was like Dr. Dre got involved, because, you know, Dr. Dre and Jimmy had already a relationship. I mean, he was signed to him, so it just was like dominoes falling. The fact, then it was like a point, like, wait a minute, M was supposed to come home, but then it was like, you know, when him and Dre got in the studio, it was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me one of our members is in the studio with Dr. Dre? And at the time, Dr. Dre was, which he is now, was an icon. Everybody's like, what the fuck is about to happen?
Do you remember the phone call that changed it, where you guys realized this was actually happening? Do you remember like hearing from Proof or from whoever that Eminem was with Dr. Dre?
Oh yeah, M reached out and was like, yo, he reached out to all of them, was like, man, you ain't gonna believe this. And it was like, he didn't come home. I think Paul came home for a minute. You know, because Paul had wanted to be in the he wanted to get his bar. He wanted to always be a music attorney, so he moved to New York to be where the happenings is. Because like I said, you know, New York and LA those were the focal points. So I think Paul came home, but I don't think M came home for. He just stayed out there. They got him a little temporary apartment, some corporate housing. That was it, man.
Wow. And then he calls you guys and says like, "Yo, you're not gonna believe it, but Dr. Dre and me are working together." Like, what was the call like?
It was an explosion. Like, damn. But mind you, all respect to one of the greatest producers I had the privilege of knowing, Denine Porter. He did the Just Don't Give a Fuck, right?
Yeah.
And he did the Just Don't Give a Fuck. And that was M's first single. And mind you, L, I told you about our promotional company. So voila, I had one of my clients was Interscope. And they was distributing, Slim Shady. So, of course, M being a friend of mine, and Paul, man, that was like that's my dog, and so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work the shit out of this record. I'm gonna put in extra because this my family. So we just started working to Just Don't Give a Fuck. And it kind of was like, to be really honest, it was like, it wasn't getting the buzz. But I'm telling you, when we knew it was like, this is serious and this is life changing, I remember this forever. They was doing How My Name Is video.
Yeah.
And Paul was like, man, I was on the phone. He was like, this video was going to be crazy. It was a director named Philip Atwell. Now he's like a world famous director now. And when the video, Paul was like, man, this is going to be crazy. And M was telling Proof, like, yo, they going crazy for this video. And they did it in LA. They didn't do it in Detroit because both videos was filmed out in LA. So when that video came out, and I wasn't at this meeting, but this is the folklore tale. MTV seen the video and they said, you know what? We're playing this video every hour. And that's when MTV was the YouTube of, that. So when that video came out, it was like, and MTV played it. They started it playing it once every hour.
I remember watching MTV and it being on every second. Like at one point in my life where I was like, what the hell? Like,
yeah,
it was the craziest music video. And I think the song sample too was just insane. Like, was it when you heard Hi My Name Is, hearing everything previously from Eminem, was it almost like, is this the same guy that was in Detroit with us? Because it's such a different sound, even compared to the rest of his catalog for history, such a different sound, right? Was it like shocking to see him in the presentation, the visualizations that you witnessed him in, the way that they had him in the music video and the sound? Or were you kind of like, oh, I get it, like I see how this evolved into this?
No, you know what? Damn, that's a good question. Most rappers, even the day rappers, where the Ice Wares, the Peasies, they all are studiers of the game. They all like listen and observe, and they put that into their career. So with M, it was like Infinite was not doing nothing, but he got more of a response off of the Slim Shady EP. So he was like, wait a minute. So he's like, I gotta dumb it down. I gotta like talk crazy, crazy lyrics. So when he did that, and mind you, it was people like when you at a record company, everybody is giving you, like at a major company, everybody's coming in with input. So when he did that record, and Dre put his foot in that record.
Yeah, we keep forgetting about that Dr. Dre's magic involved in what
exactly.
that was. Yeah.
And so when he did that, man, it was like, it was a wrap.
I'm sure Dr. Dre directed a lot of like, okay, you're super skilled. Let's figure out how to format this properly for mainstream kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird too, because Infinite you can take some of those songs and put them in the mainstream and they work today. But like you said, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was. And so when that happened, man, when the MTV, that was when everybody was like, okay, this is about to go down. It's happening.
How did you guys respond at home when you guys were in Detroit? Like when you see
it was so crazy, man, because it was like everything was happening in real time. And this is not just my story, but I remember reading in Rolling Stone, like when M came home, Paul was with him and Rolling Stones was there. And it was so crazy, man, because we did that and M had an eviction on his door. He had an eviction notice on his door when Rolling Stone rolled up and Paul rolled up and M rolled up. This is even in a Rolling Stone article. It was like eviction notice. So everybody was like, it was like changing with that. But then one of the great parts is, with me being in a promo business, I was used to like, they was used to like me bringing Biggie around to like certain areas, record stores. So we all was like comfortable with it. And then, in rappers, that's from back in the 70s to the now, every rapper got their ego. So it was like, okay, I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm supposed to be here. Okay.
That's crazy. Well, did you notice a transformation in attitude from Eminem, like before and after, like Hi, My Name Is and that success? Did you notice like a shift between his dynamics and how he like handled himself, or was he still the same dude that you remember from like the?
M was just such a, and we of the same era, age, but he was such a nice guy. He was like really, and not to say when he turned on, it was like he turned to an asshole, but it became overwhelming for him. It became like, wow, this is a guy who, was busting at restaurants around here, Gilbert's, and then for him to like really, it was an explosion. I say it all the time. I said it. I was like, man, this shit is an explosion. And so
obviously you guys he sticks to the pact with D12. You're managing D12 at that time,
right? Me and my partner, just to give a little bit of origins of that. Like, I told you, I was managing Proof since I was 17.
Yeah.
And so Bizarre manager was a guy by the name of a guy named Rico Shelton. And Swift and Brigade didn't have management. And so we at first we came together with a 3-man team to manage D12 because Bizarre was like, I want Rico to manage me because that's his manager. Proof was like, well, I want Mark Hicks to manage me. So we came to a Swift manager. He kind of like did some crazy shit and he went. So I got the first 4 years of D12 was me and Rico Shelton. We was the one who was the original management with D12.
How many years of you managing D12 before you guys hit your big break?
Oh no, it was an arranged marriage because we started managing D12 in like '98. It was like right. M got signed at night, and Proof and Bizarre always thinking ahead of the curve. They was like, we need to get our affairs in order.
So you were managing D12 like when the Underground tape came out.
No, that was right before then. That was like, but we were always.
So you were right after the Underground, like.
Yeah, but the Underground, that wasn't really an official release. That was just like
So are you were you managing during Devil's Night?
Yeah.
Okay, so Devil's Night is when how many managers are you guys for D12? Was it just you or was it?
Me and a guy named Rico Sheldon. No, okay. What happened, I'll tell you though, they were always making stuff, and mind you, Bizarre had an album, Attack of the Weird. He had an EP, Attack of the Weirdos. M had Attack of the Weirdos. And so they were all like it wasn't like no official album release. A lot of that stuff just was people compiling it together on their cassettes and CDs. So the official first release of D12 was Shit on You. So we was there from the origin. We was there from the beginning. Rico, Sheldon, and I, we were there like getting everything and getting the contract signed. The first was like I said, Shit on You, and then our really one where we was like, oh shit,
Purple?
We gonna make it happen. It's Purple Hills. Purple Hills. Yeah, it was like wow. And I'm telling you, man, it was so exciting for me because I left like my company was making like my promo guerrilla marketing Michigan street promotion company. We were grossing 6 digits, maybe like 200, 250, and for me, I kind of resigned from I kind of like just killed because the crew was like, yo, you ready for it? I was like, yeah. So I had to go on the road. Rico was on the road. So it became like, we going for it,
Yeah, Purple Pills obviously takes over. Purple Hills, Purple Pills kind of takes over the fucking airwaves for a long time.
Right.
The music videos on everybody's face. Right. How what hands did you play in that?
Well, as management, and that's, management, you gotta be the organizer. You gotta be, you gotta be the road manager. You gotta be the manager. You gotta deal with the record labels. You gotta you got the A&R at a record label, and then you got a product manager. And those are your key essential people that you've got to deal with because they know what's going on when there's a video shoot, how much the video budget. So we were like, executing, looking at the video budget, and we was working very closely with Shady Records, because how the lineage was, okay, you had Interscope, Dr. Dre, well, Aftermath, and then Aftermath, M blew up, and then of course M is gonna be like, okay, I want to eat, I want to eat some more too. So then Paul and M, they went back to Interscope, and that's how you got Shady Records, and we were the first artists on Shady Records. So we had to work in constant contact with Paul Rosenberg and and the staff at Shady Records at the time. We talking about like 98, 99.
What were the most difficult parts about getting D12's music out there, and what were the most difficult about just the entire process?
Well, man, that's a great question. Well, of course, M had a #1 album. His album was, he had a rookie album. It was already on fire.
Marshall Mathers or Slim Shady?
No, Slim Shady.
Slim
and
Shady.
So we started recording, and then the Marshall Mathers LP came out. And what was a key thing, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to school the new acts, but when M came with that Marshall Mathers, man, it was so crazy. Then we had got a budget. We had fought for a budget to go on the road. So we had tour support. And tour support is when your record label pays for you to go on the road, and you're not really getting paid. The artist is not getting paid, but they cut a check for you to pay for your room, hotels, per diems, just walk around money every day. So we got in this, at first we were in this 15-passenger van we had rented, and I still can't get a car from Alamo anymore. So we rented a van, and we just followed the tour. And then it got to a point, now that was the Up and Smoke tour. So we had did the Up and Smoke, and we had did, M had his tour Anger Management.
Oh, yeah.
So we were so basically, and this is where, and hey, I'm the low end on the totem pole but I said, and Bizarre, Proof, all of the guys from D12, they knew about promotions because that was our environment. Promote. One of my old sayings was, I had stickers when I would give out CDs, Biggie CDs and Outkast CDs. It was like, hey, if you don't promote, you don't make banknotes. So they knew we gonna go hard. So when we would be on these tours, we would be passing out everybody. If it was at the 9, it was Swift. We would be like, oh, Swift, I just got a CD. So we had these CD samplers, and we just went hard because we come from that. We come from that kind of hard work ethic background. So that made it easier. So mind you, we had 2 albums of Eminem, and then we came with Purple, Devil's Night. So that was like, and and then the guys, man, they were so smart and with it that they would see M, because M was going every day. It was something bigger happening. It was like, oh, I just met Dustin Hoffman. Okay. Then you say, oh, I was Robert De Niro's daughter want to get an autograph. So and we on the road. So we were being sponges. We was just picking up everything.
So when he was on his own tour, you guys kind of were like part of the tour, and it's your own way. Where it's like you guys, D12 would feature on some sets.
No, yep, they would. Yeah, we would do Shit on You sometimes. We would do certain records. We would come out, and already a double bonus would be, Proof was M's hype man, part of the Eminem band. So it was like, so you had Proof on stage, always kind of rocking a D12 shirt or a D12 chain, and then D12 would come out and do a song.
Was D12 like touching millions of dollars at any point, or was it like always like?
Yeah, it was, man. But in this game, man, it just comes and goes, man. It's like that old saying I always tell people that, what did Dr. Dre say? Give me the mic, the money, and the hoes, and I'm straight. I mean, I'm just trying to like diss women. I love women, but but man, it comes so quick. And even for me, man, money would just be coming and coming, and it was like, it was like, man, it's a crazy lifestyle. But yeah.
What was the most exciting moments you remember from touring with Eminem and D12?
Well, I gotta say, it was 2 of them where, of course, Shit on You, and it didn't do as big as Purple Hills, but we had the #1 Billboard single for the. I remember I went to the store and I was like, I brought all the champagne I could, my pockets could afford, and we was like, hey, we got the #1, and this was Shit on You was the first single, and the album wasn't out, and then we had a record release party in New York, and just sitting there, and our album debuted #1.
Wow, man.
And you know, me being a historian of the music industry, that's like crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, like, my name is gonna be on 4 million records as a manager.
That's insane.
You know, so I'm like, damn, and you know, it was, but you know, honestly, it's really like, I think all of us didn't really smell the roses and like, you know, or what they say, sometimes smell the cognac, and because, you know, man, it's every day it's something. And you know, you're dealing with your personal life, your friends, your family, and then you got, you know, 8 hours of interviews to do. And if you're not the artist, you gotta sit there and you know, so it's like so much things you gotta do, and you just gotta strategize and everything.
How did you guys know how to market D12, it being something kind of you know, new to the scene? It was a new style of music, it was a new kind of concept, and then you have one person who's like a star above everybody but still maintaining the stardom of the artist in D12 as well.
I gotta say, one of the most brilliant minds I've ever done business with is Jimmy Iovine. Because Jimmy Iovine, you know, and Jimmy Iovine, you know, he's the owner of Interscope, and he's the one responsible for, you know, the Dr. Dre, the Tupacs, and he was, so I mean, his mind is such a genius that, and you know, then too, you got Paul Rosenberg, and basically those were the guys. They was like, okay, let's make this happen. They would add stuff to it. They would have marketing strategies, and then they would always listen.
Then I'm gonna throw you a curveball.
What?
Do you think Eminem would have made it with the same amount of
Okay, I know where this is going.
same amount of like marketing as far as like money's concerned, but like you take away Jimmy Iovine and you take away the people who helped him become the image that he is? Do you think he still would have made it?
I don't think so because, you know, it was times where he was about to, you know, like, that's true. Like Fat Joe was wanting to sign him. It was so many underground labels. Because mind you, we wasn't doing all of that, going to New York, traveling and going. We started getting like some, okay, what's going on? And at the time, Paul was getting, because, you know, he lived in New York, and he was getting some different people who was like, yo, we want to sign him. But I mean, the whole logistics, even like, you know, the story of like the reason M bleached his hair blonde is because Busta Rhymes, they was down at MTV, and Busta Rhymes was like, man, you need to, if you dye your hair blonde. And that's like, you know, that's how he became the Blonde Bomber. So it's like so much going on in the team that he was together, his management, and you know, M was a genius, and just Jimmy Iovine, it was like the right Nirvana.
So if you think if Eminem got signed to anybody else, his success wouldn't have been as big?
Me personally, I don't think so. I don't think it was perfect timing. Just the creativity was there, you know.
When Devil's Night, you're #1. You help market it. The guerrilla marketing combined with the fact that you guys have labels pushing everything. You're doing everything the right way to get to #1,
Exactly.
obviously. You guys are celebrating it. What's D12's future looking like at that point? Because you feel success. You feel like this can keep going in the trajectory that it's going. But is there more of pressure now because you hit #1? And how did they manage that pressure?
Well, we were touring a lot, you know. I mean, D12 was like, you know, like it was almost like I had to stay, you know, in the office, and then Rico, you know, my partner, he would go on the road with them. So we were like on the road, like it was crazy, and that was like festivals. You know, we started doing spot dates, so it was just like it was incredible,
Crazy, man.
Yeah, it was.
What was your guys' backstage rituals, or what did you guys just do backstage to get ready for a show in the green room?
Have just pimp out the rider, and then wait for the after party and just have fun and drinking and doing just having a ball, man.
Who was the closest behind the scenes? Like, who were the closest that clicked together the most, or did everybody click together?
Everybody always clicked together. We had, sometimes we would have beef with each other. It was a brotherhood.
What did you guys ever have beef about? Like,
No, it was just stupid shit. It was like stupid shit. It was like, might be a girl, or hey, I didn't, one of the members might want to stay in and they didn't want to go to the after party. Also, you don't get a part of the after party money. It was really, what do they call that? Rich man problems, or I'm just saying, it was just, but hey, everybody loved each other, and it was and then it wasn't no arranged, like in terms of everybody grew up with each other, and because we all didn't go to the same high school, but we was all like, it was like a special little, like a group of people who was really, really into hip hop. If you, like, sometimes we would have like club nights on a Wednesday at 10 p.m. It was like odd. We had like that, Stanley's restaurant. That was true. It was like everybody would meet at Stanley's to just hang out and stuff.
Wow.
And, like, because, the restaurant would be open during the day. And then on Friday nights, Maurice Malone and Jerome Mungo, they would have like, they would say, okay, it's kind of quiet on Friday nights at this Chinese restaurant. So all the hip hoppers came there and was like, so it was like, that's the kind of, it was like we had a cult basically,
Sick. What was the most difficult part for you as a manager at that time? Was there a specific day that you'll never forget? Like, this was the hardest day of my career as a manager for D12?
Nah, but I hate, when you in that lifestyle, it's hard to like have a relationship. You had to be, so that was hard, because.
But you're probably getting all the chicks you wanted at that time.
Yeah, it was, but you can't trust them, somebody that's, just hanging with you or something, and
trying to get to somebody else.
Yeah, you don't want to be you don't want a girlfriend who bring you a line of coke at backstage. You're like, that's the one.
And so everything was pretty much smooth sailing. You guys tour, you guys are selling, everything is going great. You said you managed D12 for 4 years.
Yeah.
Was Proof's passing the reason you stopped, or what was?
No, it just with all everything fell apart. Because everybody was, man. When it comes to art, it could be like, and I know that I'm not a rarity. It's like you have a manager that can take you at 70, but then you got these big companies that could be like, oh, I could take you to 120.
Yeah.
And I think it was a long haul, and life of a manager, like somewhat like, big shout out to like Kino Chillery, he been managing Royce like 25 years. You don't really see that shit. Paul Rosenberg, they like brothers. They like Em and Paul, they've been together like 27 years. Yeah, you don't really, it kind of gets, fall
Did they put
apart.
you in a better position, though, even though that time did come where they're like, look, we have to take it to the next level? Did they put you in a position to...
What happened for me, Rico, he had a record label, that's partner Rico Shelton. So he went back to like overseeing his record label. He had some stuff going. And then with me, I just relaunched my promo company. And of course, one of my first clients was Shady Records because of, the deep relationship me and Paul Rosenberg had. So I started doing consulting work for Paul. Like, everybody probably know I had a Shady Records van wrap around Michigan. So, I became like more on it wasn't like I was switching sides, but it was like I became former manager. Then I started doing consulting work with Shady Records.
You think Paul knows about the podcast? He knows about this thing?
I think he do.
You
Yeah,
think he knows what's going on out here, man?
yeah. He didn't. Trust me, I've even seen him some clips. I ain't gonna say what clips, but yeah, he.
I know which clips.
Yeah, it was,
But
yeah, he know he's a.
Did you? I talked to Mikey Eckstein. He said he did some tour road management for D12 too. Did you guys get to spend time together?
Yeah, no. What happened? We started, like I told you, with 3, but really two really, and then we needed to re-up. So I had just basically, told all my clients and I had like 15 clients at one time. I was like, you know what, you guys got to find somebody, another marketing firm for this area, because I'm about to go full steam with management.
Yeah.
And so Rico was like, he like kind of shut down his record company because he had a record company in Ann Arbor, because he's, you know, that's where he's from, that Ann Arbor, Ipsy area, and he shut his down, you know, because he had a record company called Federation. He had like, you probably wouldn't know this, but just like your generation, but he had like a popular, like an underground record label, real underground. Like I said, Bizarre, Vaughn, and Kuniva, they was on his label like before the explosion.
For sure.
So Rico shut his down, and it was like we just said so we had to rebuild a team. So we went and we got Mikey. We was like, Mikey is a hard work, because, you know, Mikey, we knew him from like St. Andrews, and he's from Ann Arbor. He lived in Ann Arbor. So, you know, Mikey was a hard guy. And then we got this guy named John Fisher. And till this day, John Fisher is still like one of M's, you know, body guys, you know.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah,
man.
so it was like, so a lot of people came. So we had this company, not just go back a little bit, we formed this company called Dirty Management. And Dirty Management, we had a crib in Highland Park. Man, it was, now that I look back on it, that shit could have been a movie, because we took over this, well, not took over, I rented this house, and eventually I brought it from one of my dear friends, John. And so we took over that house, and that was our hub. So we had all the wild shit. We had the tour buses. We had Obi sleeping on couches. Proof had a room there. It was a wild. Anybody from that era know about the Dirty Mansion, you know.
Incredible, man.
Yeah, so
How did you guys handle, obviously, the unfortunate passing of Proof? Like, what was, obviously it's life shattering. I mean, I'm sorry to even bring it up, but it's obviously life shattering to you, that moment, because it's your friend and somebody you managed. What was the times like for you at that? How were you handling everything?
Well, at first, it was like I was with my woman at the time, and we was sitting in bed. We couldn't sleep that night. I couldn't sleep the night he passed. And I was like, damn, I cannot sleep. And then I turned on like Channel 2, and they was like, Bizarre shot somebody in a club. It was like, I don't know if somebody have that on tape, like about the weird shit that was coming out like 5 a.m. morning news. And it was like, damn, and I'm like sitting with my girl, and I'm like, this some silly shit. And at the time I was just doing consulting work for Shady. And I was also, just to add a little bit to that, Proof hired me to do marketing. He wanted me to be head of marketing for his record label, because he put out his first album. He put out his only album, you know, Searching for Jerry Garcia. He put it out, and so I was working with Proof. Like when he passed, I was doing marketing for his record company, Iron Fist. So I'm like, damn, I'm hearing all this shit. I'm like, and then I was just watching these bullshit news stories. And then I started getting, you know, phone calls, texts, like my phone just started exploding. I was like, what the fuck? Then it was like, it was crazy. Yeah. And then at the time, Proof and his wife, Sharonda, wasn't, you know, they were separated. She had moved to Florida, and she called me, and she was like, is it true? And I said, Sharonda, I don't know. I'm trying to gather information now. And so the hardest part of that, was me like telling Sharonda the reports is true. Because mind you, we don't have, the internet was around, but it really wasn't like how crazy, well, social media wasn't around. So we really had to, like, it took a couple of hours, because she had heard word, it was some radio. And, you know, at that time, radio was the spreader of news. And, you know, you had like MTV.com, and it was crazy, man.
What, like, I know the news reports kind of explained that it was what the situation was, but is there like more to it that people just don't understand, or was it just like random?
I think, well, to the day, Proof mom, Pepper Holton, she's passed. Till the day she died, she had reports, and I had never seen the reports, but it was no gun residue on Proof hands.
So he never had a weapon.
Yeah, well, it was, and that's like some stuff that's still, a matter of fact, one of Sean's, his eldest son, DeShaun Holton Jr., his name is DeShaun Rice. He was named after Proof, but he took his mother's name. He's working on a documentary about it, and he's really into like finding. But it's documents that he didn't have gun residue, and it was like some crazy cover up. You know.
Wow.
You know, it was wild, man.
That's insane.
But I tell you, one of the things, the most happiest point is, and I gotta be a little selfish. I gotta be a little not like favorite. The most happiest time was, even though I wasn't with D12 no more, was when Proof dropping Jerry Garcia. I mean, searching for Jerry Garcia. That was like,
Yeah.
I was working at the label too. I mean, at Proof label, but that was so amazing because, you know, the reason, and this is, you can Google this. It was, I always wanted D12 to be like a Grateful Dead, or like I didn't want him to just, because you bring up a point where we didn't want to just be on M's shoulders. We wanted to, I was like, let's do this D12 and let's do the, you know, and I reached out to like even internet sites, because, you know, the internet was just starting to blossom. I was like, let's go underground. Let's keep it underground. We got MTV, we got BET, but let's keep it underground. And so I always was like, I would always read books about the Grateful Dead, and, you know, and that's one of the biggest underground like rock groups, you know, people who don't know.
Right.
And I was like, yo, let's keep it there. And so I would be reading books, and Proof would be reading those books too. And he'd be like, yeah. And that's how we kind of came with the searching for Jerry Garcia, because we wanted to keep it like kind of underground. We didn't just want to be like, you know, we didn't want to be like no flash in the pan, one hit wonders, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to keep attacking the mainstream when you knew the mainstream wasn't going to fully accept all the sounds that were better off for the group to be making than to try to curate themselves to be mainstream.
Yeah, like, yeah, we believe
you're trying to fit the mold of the mainstream when it's like you don't fit that mold. You did it before, you can do it, but to keep trying to do it, there's a high failure rate versus keeping it underground where you're more accepted in certain demographics, right? Which is interesting. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
no, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't want it to be, and myself, when I say I'm talking about our management team all the way from, you know, Rico Shelton, Mikey, John Fisher. We didn't want it to be like, we didn't want it to be like we had to depend on if MTV didn't want to fuck with us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we didn't want it to be like, oh shit, we ain't gonna tour, you know, because we were like making good money.
I heard D12 still tours to this day.
Yeah,
Which is
two
insane.
of them do. Yeah, Swift and Vaughn. They still tour. They still got it going, man. They was just on tour with Ice Cube and all of this, and they overseas.
Yeah, Bizarre still dropping tapes.
Bizarre still dropping, and D9. He's one of them. He's one of them producers ninjas where you'll be like, damn, D9 did this, so but not D9 is always, you know, into some stuff. So yeah,
and then Nissan is taking kind of proofs.
Oh man, Nissan. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of Nissan. It's like he's just building his own. This is like he went to, you know, I just remember him being born, and I was at the hospital, and he used to love SpongeBob, and now he didn't turn into this. He didn't turn into this monster. I'm sitting like, and of course, he's my nephew, and I'm sitting on the phone like, how is he doing this shit? I'm looking at him like, I don't know him, but I know him, and it's like, damn, this guy is so creative. So yeah,
incredible, man. When you look at you know, towards the end of Eminem, D12 was kind of the end of it, right? Obviously, Proof passing away is a huge part of it. And I know the group disbanded after that, but then, you know,
they didn't disband. They kept it going, and even after Proof died, and like I said, I wasn't in the room because at that time I wasn't managing them. I was just on the other side of the spear, you know, doing work with Shady Records. They didn't disband. And they started making music, and they had like Swiss Beats records. It's even stuff online where like that got leaked, and then D12 came out. It was like some underground mixtapes that came out with like real music after Proof died, but it just wasn't you just couldn't get that. You know, if you sit in there like record setup and all of this, and you just like, damn, you know.
Were you part of the when my band came out? Were you part of that process?
No, I wasn't part. We had did. Rico and I had did a contract renegotiations in order to get the budget open for my band, but we didn't. And then the other management company came in, and
Wow.
they took but it wasn't no harm, no foul. I mean, all of us, like, unfortunately, the Nine's younger brother just died in November.
Oh my God.
And we all came, and we was all at the wake, and it was like, it was everybody's cool,
Did Eminem come through?
He didn't come through, but because it was like, it wasn't, he can't,
When's the last time you seen him? Like,
the last time we hang out at the Lions game. The last time I was hanging with Em and Paul was at the Lions Viking game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll see. Yeah, I'll be, at the studio, and then I also was doing marketing for the Eminem, the last album, the Cool album. Yeah,
Eminem's last tape, you marketed that?
no, I was doing that. And I gotta talk to you later after that. But yeah, I did the digital billboards, and
Whoa.
yeah, I still I stay in the game.
That's
I'm
so cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
so yeah,
so
so
sick.
I've always had a great relation with just some marketing aspects of it. Yeah.
Oh, what's it like when you're talking to Paul? Like, obviously, you guys have a great relationship, and you're working together. I know you're at the radio station now too, right?
No, I'm not at the radio station.
I think you aren't you?
Oh no. I'm got a new project. I got a platform that's gonna have a radio show. It's called Up North Heat, and it's gonna be on Shade 405.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we, Paul is like, that's my dog, man. He's a close friend of mine, and I met him when he was. I don't know if he wanted me to say this, but it was a lady by the name of Andrina Somerville, and she was at Arista Records, and I was her rep. Like I told you, she was one of my clients, but she was local here, but she had like Outkast, TLC, and all of this, and they had an office called BMG, which people don't even know. BMG is now called Sony now, and Paul was the mail guy at this office over there on Crooks Road in Troy. He was the mail guy, and he was working there to gain experience, but then he also was paying his way through college because Paul graduated from University of Detroit Law School. He's a Spartan, but he went to U of D Law School. So he was like, everybody was doing their thing, and I met him there because Andrina was like, okay, Mark, you need to know this guy, Paul, and Paul, you need to know this guy, Mark. And we just like, all right, okay, we gonna hang. And and that was like in 95, 96. So
Man.
we didn't have that type of relationships,
Where do you think, when you talked about reading books and, really studying the game, but to have a creative mind for people at the top of the highest levels of mainstream asking you to help with marketing and pay you for marketing ideas and concepts, how does your mind work like that? Like, how does your mind fire to come up with these concepts and ideas?
Ooh. Well, one thing, I don't know if like your fans watch this or they probably don't. Mad Men is kind of like it's a show about advertising, and you got to always think like you got 5 different records, and you got to think. And this is coming from, and once again, I got to give shout outs to the OGs in the game that taught me, like the Calvin. We have so many giants.
Calvin Klein?
No, Calvin Ventura.
No.
So it's so many giants that educated my. I'm not talking about the music's class, but I'm talking about promo. I had so many like record store owners, Barry Bill. I had Calvin Ventura. It was like they taught us the game. And my dad, I had a dad in my life, and he raised me, but he had to hand it off, and I had to get out here in the streets and really find mentors. And man, by the power of like Sean P, Daryl Dawsey, some of these names, they helped me in the promo game. And it was just like, so when you're thinking about marketing, you got to always look at what is happening, what is working. I was just reading this book. I was reading a Jeff Bezos book, and Jeff Bezos said, it's always great to be number 2.
Yes.
Because when you watch what number 1 do, and you could take some of that style and add it, and you could rebuild your shit.
And it's better to be number 2 than nothing, goddamn.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck that, man. I'd rather be number 7 than nothing, goddamn. Shit. It's hard out here, man. It's not like it's easy to find like a place in hip hop or entertainment for that matter. It's like everybody's scraping for a spot. And if you can get any position, as long as you're happy doing it, man, fuck it, like.
Man,
to be number one in rap, it's like, who gives a fuck, man? Like, I'd rather be like doing what I like to do than to be number one at something, and just like that's all I'm doing it for, is to be number one. I'd rather just be in it and do it the way I want to do it than be number one and like do it in the way that the labels are telling me to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's to the point of like, I'm bringing it. I unfortunately bring it back up, but M and Esham had a history.
Yeah.
They had a history. And that's coming from that whole era, the Champtown, the ICP, the Esham, and M was considered an underground rapper. But I've seen so many times, M don't bother nobody. In terms of, I know his lyrics be kind of wild. But you have like rappers that he's never even dissed. They just come out and they want a shot at the crown. We would be like, well, what is this guy doing? It'd be like,
well, I remember Everlast because I was literally. It was funny because I was an Everlast fan and I was an Eminem fan, and then one day I hear Eminem dissing Everlast, and I'm like, what the hell do these two guys even have to do with each other? But then I remember like House of Pain, so there's like a rap acquaintance and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. Mikey told me that like Everlast dissed Eminem at a show, and Everlast had to like hide in a cooler or something like that to hide away from the people that wanted to jump him for dissing Eminem. Like, that's how bad it got.
Well, I think what you alluding to, it was a little bit. Yeah, Mikey is correct, but it was something like Everlast did a show. Now, mind you, D12 was in Europe at the time, and not unfortunately, but I used to have to be here to like, get the bag, disperse, make sure girlfriends are tight, mom's tight. So I'm here, and I wasn't at the show, but it was Everlast came here to St. Andrews, and he just started shitting on M. And it was some people in the crowd, who knows, some random people, they got mad, and a lot of liquor be pouring at St. Andrews, and they jumped on stage and got into a fight with Everlast band and his security. It turned into a melee.
God.
Yeah, it was crazy. But that's the thing. Everlast, you gonna come in somebody's show, somebody's city, and talk shit. You better be prepared for it, man.
Yeah, man. That was. It's like everybody takes a shot, like you said, man, to get to the top. But like he was so like, when somebody's as talented as Eminem, you can't just take the spot by antics. Like, you literally have to skillfully, like, you have to have the talent, the ability, the team. Like, you're part of a team that helped organize and still are marketing strategies that made people understand who somebody was by how you marketed it.
Right.
Because like, we could look at Eminem 1,000 different ways. We could look at D12 1,000 different ways.
Right.
You could look at, there's so many different angles to looking at them. Like, the ICP days must have been weird too, like, because they're all coming from like kind of the same area.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to figure out, like, do we play with this area? Do we mess around with the horrorcore rap scene? Do we like avoid that? Do we mix it? Like, how was that time, like the ICP era? Like, what was that all about?
The ICP era was so, like I said, when you have an explosion happen, it's like, say like one of your boys, he probably got like $20 in his pocket, and then he calls you up and he says, L, I just hit the lottery for $20 million. I'm not saying I think you're a cool person. I'm not saying, but you might have it was just loaning this guy $100, and now he's worth $20 million. Not the Eminem numbers, but so when Eminem exploded and you seeing videos and it wasn't even being jealous, because once again, Esham was a young legend even back then. Couldn't nobody outsell his records, and he's a genius with this shit. Esham is like, man, he's crazy with it. So, and then with ICP, they was marketing. Because I remember, man, I'm not trying to be like old man River, but I remember those guys. The first time I seen them, they were in like a hip hop club. It was on the east side. It was a deep east side. It was in the hood, and they was passing out cassettes. And the cassette they had was called Dog Beats, and they didn't even have a map. I think that cover, they just had like, one of them was upside down. I can't even remember, but it was like they didn't even have the clown shit. This was like they had a George Clinton sample, and it was called Dog Beats or Dope Beats. And and then seeing them evolve, and M was always this underground guy. So you had Esham like selling out record stores. You had ICP getting their niche, and and then you see Eminem explode, and everybody was making money. But I just don't, it became like about a popularity contest. And then it did, because it wasn't like nobody was on the soup line. So with ICP, they just started really dissing us, and man, it got kind of crazy out on the road, because at every venue, we would be in Portland, we would be in Seattle, it would always be 3 clowns like greeting our bus. I mean, seriously, they were all across the world. They were like, it was always, on a worst day, it would be 2 of them.
So like juggalos would be at the
juggalos.
shows?
They would know when we coming in, so we got a schedule. We didn't know how the fuck they knew the schedule, but they know, okay, we gonna be it.
And the juggalos had a problem with Eminem, or
They just wanted to call shit to be like, hey, we here, So we be coming in on a bus. We be coming in to do rehearsals or sound checks. And we'd be coming in that tour bus, and it would always be some clown mask.
How did Eminem respond to seeing these juggalos that are trying to?
It was like,
he just laughed
keep
about
us
it?
away from it, because we don't know, these guys were intense. It was crazy. Like I told you, I had a Shady van, Eminem van rap. Like I was I know it's a lot of firsts on everything here. I'm not gonna get into that. We're gonna do that again. And I got a lot of firsts, but I'm not going there.
Yeah.
But I had a Shady Records van, and I was like somewhere on a date, like in fucking Southfield, and I come out, somebody that threw paint on the van, somebody put ICP, but of course I'm like a moving target. So I mean, you got a big, and I'm on a date in my Shady van rap, but I was like, man, so it was always like crazy with that. And then you see all those stickers, those Hatchet Man stickers on cars, you be like, oh shit.
Man.
Yeah, but I think honestly, and this is just my theory, I think they were cool with M and they was cool with ICP.
It's
I know people
like,
pick sides, but it was like,
it sounds like just rock and roll shit, where it's like, it's like there's supposed to be this fun world inside of the world. You know what I mean? Like even them targeting your shows and putting juggalos there, that's cool as fuck. Like that's rock and roll, man. That's like doing something outside the box and not making it super professional. Like, let's break the rules, let's have fun. If we have a statement to make, that's how we make our statements. Keep it fresh like that. It's fun. I want to talk about what you got going on now, man. What can people contact you for, or how can people get involved with you?
Well, honestly, I got my Instagram page. That's the most of the time. The talented Mr. Hicks. What I want to do, and this is my thing, man, and this is what I've really been working on. And once again, I got a couple investors in this project, and the thing, I can't remember my guy's name, but the guy who created Cadillac, who founded Cadillac, GM threw him out and said, we ain't fucking with you no more. You do, and you know what he did? He went to Ford and said, man, I got something still left in me. And Ford said, all right, we're going to give you a shot. He created Lincoln. So I think, and this is just me, maybe this is my ego, but I think, I contributed a lot of successful things in the music business. So I consider that my Cadillac moment. I want this to be a big tent for all the, I don't care if it was guys that I grew up with and I ran with. I'm talking about All-Star JR. I'm talking about everybody. Vezo. I'm trying to create a big tent. And mind you, much respect to Kid L, Detroit Rap Daily. It's nothing but, I admire you guys. You guys are continuing the torch. But I just wanted to create something to like kind of contribute to the new era.
Yeah.
And you got like OGs, guys from my era.
Well, the difference between us and you is that you've done it at the professional, like, highest levels. We're like, even though we're doing what we're doing, like, there's so many things we don't even understand or know about, from even legality standpoints, from just certain logistics where it's like, okay, we're doing this at the very underground level. Like if you take somebody like your mind and apply it to what we're doing here, you're gonna flourish pretty quickly, you know?
Well, that's the thing, and that's something like I do have a consulting, and I kind of like in the private sector, because like my last clients was like, Quarter to Infinity. I had an artist, that was my heart, was the Drew Parks Drew 32 record. Like he was the, speaking of first, I'll say this, he was the first on Empire. We had a record on MTV, and then Nima and them said, "Hey, we want to give you guys a situation," and that's why we went over to Empire. But I do private sector work for Shady, of course, and Nick's Chips. And I do stuff for Mobile. I'm a junior partner in Mobile Billboard. Mobile Billboard, Michigan, Midwest. I'm saying it wrong, but I would like to be like, we need an ear, because some of these guys, man, we've been on that road, and that road is fucked up. Some advice, like I see all these artists. Once again, I'm not a hater because I like nice things, but I see some of the artists and I'd be like, I'm talking about Michigan, and this is, what other people don't think. Eminem, Paul Rosenberg, they all have an affection for Michigan. They love it. We love it. In our background, we be looking at artists, and we be like, of course our mag's gonna track. So this project is gonna be kind of a love letter back to the city. And I want it to be open where, like some of these new artists, the door is always open, especially for Michigan artists, because, man, some of the stuff and the tricks of the trade, man, it gets ugly. And then how you handle different things, and and I talked to some of them, and they be like, "Wow, you could do that." I was like, "Yeah." So, man, I want to be like a uncle to this, a unc to this game, because there's so many, traps and different things you don't see, and you got to be prepared. And the thing of it is that New York kind of do it, and LA do it a little bit, but New York, all those guys, unfortunately, like the OGs in the game, they kind of like died or shit in prison, so it's but yeah, man, it is that source, it is that it's cyclical. You gotta, like, it's gonna be a time where I help out this era, and then they, Babyface Ray and them, they're gonna have to help out the art. So you gotta always keep it going, man. And it's like, man, like platforms like yours is amazing. And I see because I watch your show, man. But it's like, people don't really see. They may see like one thing you do, and that's that old cliche. Don't look at the tree, think of the forest. And for like what your platforms and the forum and Detroit Rap Daily and Detroit Rap News and then the other Detroit hip hop what's my man?
Hip Hop Lab?
The Hip Hop Lab, Lando. And I had a positive, because Paul connected me and Lando, because I wanted to get some, this up north heat. I've been researching this for 2 years, so man, I know the ins and outs of, like, if I'm just my guy and I could be like retired or something. I don't want to say retired, but I've researched and I've looked at every the current roster, because up north heat is going to primarily be the new artists. We're gonna showcase some people from the 90s, the early 2000s, but these guys are like killing numbers.
Oh, for sure.
It's a music really. And I know that people gonna think I'm just being, selfish to my state, which I love.
Yeah.
Is that you really can't think of you got probably Texas, you got Cali, but New York ain't really. And this is coming from analytics. New York ain't really popping like that. You know what I mean? You got if you talk, you got like Illinois, because Chicago, and Florida doing a little thing, but. And Memphis doing something, but if you combine all of the Michigan artists, if you really think, because it's really like, and I know L, you have to deal with it like I have to deal with, just like going analytics and who's really hot, and, and who's bullshit and who's like, oh, that's my boy.
I know everything.
Yeah, it's like 60. How many artists do you think? And I'm not trying to act. I'm asking, how many artists do you think that are making noise in Michigan? Like, I mean, I'm talking about self-sufficient.
Like, well, noise at what level?
I'm talking about where they could pay. They're making money in the music.
They can in Michigan as far as rap.
Like Cloner and all. You know,
I can only go with rap. I can't
Okay.
go outside of rap. But if I'm gonna go with rap, I would say 32. Roughly around 32 people are probably making enough money in Michigan,
right,
to make a modest living, and some of them are making exceptional livings.
Right.
Of
Okay.
that 32.
Yeah.
So some of them are making exceptional livings, and then the rest of them are making middle to modest, and then some of them are making modest. But that's not that many, to be honest with you, if we're talking about just the rap scene.
Well, in terms of pop,
Probably a little bit more. Like, I would say that maybe 32 to 50 would
you
be
gotta think
super
about
modest.
RMC Mike and all those.
I
guys
am, I'm including Flint.
Okay, you're cool.
So in my mind, I literally went like, okay, Rio, RMC Mike, Crispy Life Kid, Babyface E. I went like All Star JR. I went Peasy. I went Payroll Giovanni. I went Cash Kid Mark, Kid HBK.
Damn, you got it. Yeah, yeah.
I would go with Dej Loaf, Cash Doll.
Man.
Nisha Nashe is probably making. I don't know. Nisha Nashe is a tough call because I don't want to get into that, but who knows? And then you're getting into 3200 Trey, Ghetto Baby Boom. I don't know.
Yeah,
Some of these guys though, like their numbers are good, but to say that they're making like a modest living is a very, very tough call, because I know guys that triple their numbers and are still working jobs.
Right.
So it's like hard to gauge it off the numbers.
Well, but the popularity is if they like say like for instance,
Mm-hmm.
it's somebody out there, and I like them that will pay Cloner for a verse.
For sure, but you got to talk about consistency. You got to talk about how often Cloner works is a delivery driver for Jimmy John's to this day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I didn't know.
And
that.
he talks about it on the podcast every time he comes on. Like, he came on 4 months ago. He's like, yeah, I still work at Jimmy John's. And I know a lot of Detroit rappers that still work jobs. Like G-Mac Cash wasn't able to leave his job for years, until he was able to get it.
He's making a killing.
Now he's doing good, but I would say like literally between 32 people are probably making a living. Some of them exceptionally well, some of them modestly, and some of them a little bit low. And then if you really want to like tweak it a little bit, you could say 32 to 50 of them are like getting by with their music.
Okay, but the thing is, okay, you can't say that about Texas and Illinois.
Probably not with the rap game. No, probably not with the rap game. No.
Yeah, not with the rap game. We just talking rap, and with this up north heat, we primarily on rap.
Yes.
We're gonna expand out, but up north heat is gonna be. We just doing nothing but the news about Michigan.
Mark, I'm gonna get you back on here as soon as possible, man.
Oh,
if you're willing to come back again,
I
man.
love it, man.
It's been awesome hearing you, but we got to get a part 2 in, man. So we're gonna cut this out here, but get back to a part 2 before people know it, because I know a lot of these talks are gonna go super viral, and we barely scratched the surface with your career. So I want to get back to that. I appreciate everything you're doing and everything you've explained to us and really getting into detail. We'll get back with this talk within the next couple months. We're at Parallel Sound Studio, Hilo Visual, shooting these productions. We're out. Peace.
This episode was brought to you by Kid L Productions. For music video, photography, event video, video production, consulting, and more. Book with Kid L today.